Alright, so I'll explain in a moment what this drawing is. This is for Colleen, but I just wanted to make this video to share that. So I just finished watching Colleen's video. She did two videos today. Her channel name is Loved by the King. I'm sure most of you already know who she is. But she did a couple videos today that really got me thinking, and I think she's really starting to connect some dots with some things that the Lord has been showing us. And hopefully, I just pray that I can communicate this well enough so you guys can understand, because like my brain is so full of information right now and it just hurts. So hopefully I make sense with what I'm trying to share with you guys. So in her video, she was revisiting the word that I received on the morning of Easter, Resurrection Day, April 21st. And what I heard was time is off by 4, 5, 6. And then she starts revisiting her dream that she had about the two full moons, and she knew it meant that it was time for the rapture right then and there. And she saw the words fullness, completion, and perfection, and I think she said also wholeness. And she's talking about how, like what if the full moons is symbolic of Jew and Gentile and the fullness of them? Because it's always a full moon, it's always two full moons when people are dreaming about the rapture. And when she said that, um, I flashed back to the dream that I had yesterday where I saw two moons in the sky, and I said, oh my gosh, there's two moons. That means it's time for the rapture right now. And then nothing happened. And in the dream, I was very confused and I didn't know why it wasn't happening. Well, now I'm realizing, well, it was the first time that I've ever dreamt that the moons weren't full, they were half moons, and they were like this. They were right up next to each other in the sky, facing each other. They were just a little bit off kilter. Colleen asked me if they would have been brought together, would they have like formed one full moon? And they would have. They were facing each other and they were right next to each other, but they weren't perfectly aligned. They were kind of crooked. One was a little bit askew, kind of like tilted upward, and I told Colleen it reminded me of like one of those friendship necklaces with where one friend wears the piece of the heart and the other one wears the other half of the heart, and you like fit them together. It's kind of like you could fit them together as a whole moon, but you would have to kind of like finagle with them a little bit and kind of shift them a little bit and line them up better. It's kind of like a puzzle piece. You know how when you do a puzzle, you kind of try to like fit the piece down in and you kind of like twist it a little bit and just maneuver it to where you are able to perfectly press it in. It was kind of like that. So they were a little bit crooked from each other like this, but they were side by side like that. So now I'm thinking, well, duh, the reason the rapture didn't happen was because the moons weren't full. And is this saying the fullness of the Jews and the Gentiles is what is going to be the reason that the rapture happens right away? That's what we're waiting for. And, I need to do a little bit more research on exactly what that means, because I tend to forget these things over time, you guys. And then, then I decided to, I went to Google and I typed in, let me back up. So when I received that message, time is off by 4, 5, 6, I shared with you guys there was an extra piece of information that was given to me that I just didn't know, I didn't know what to do with it. And I thought that I was just going to leave it out. But I went by faith and I left it in there, trusting that the Lord knew what He was doing when He was giving me this message. And I remembered hearing something about an egg, and I was like, that's totally random. you know, maybe I should just leave that out. But I'm like, no, don't do that, because whenever I leave things out of dreams, I regret it later because it does usually end up making sense. But so I went to Google and I typed Jew Gentile egg just to see if anything would come up. And to be honest, I really wasn't expecting anything to come up, but stuff came up about Passover, and I was like, oh my gosh, duh. Like, hold on a second. Let me cover the screen. I look terrible, you guys. So I do not need to be putting my face on this, but I will leave a link to this website, but let me read to you what I came upon. So I had forgotten this, but it says, at Passover Seders around the world, one of the items that they put on the Seder plate will be a simple hard-boiled egg. And so I knew this at one point, but like I said, I tend to forget these things over time because it's so much information and my brain just gets overwhelmed. I could sit here tonight and do a full-on study about Passover, and then if you ask me in a couple months to tell you about it, I would forget it, because the way that I learn is very hands-on. I need to experience what it is that I'm learning about, or I just won't retain it as well. So I know, like, I have notes somewhere in my many notebooks about Passover and what they do during Passover and how they celebrate, but I forgot all about it just because the information gets confused with all the different Jewish holidays and what they do to celebrate the different ones and how they do it. It all gets jumbled up in my brain and I forget it. So I knew this at one point, that they do have a hard-boiled egg on the Seder plate, but it totally escaped me. And it says the egg reflects the precise position of the Jewish people at the time of the Exodus from Egypt. So I was like, this is it. This is what the egg was about, Passover. And then what really got me, and I'm going to leave a link so you guys can read all about this, but what really got me was this part right here. It says, when the Jewish people left Egypt, well, let me read this first. Well, okay. Yeah, when the Jewish people left Egypt, they were just like an unhatched egg, free from the prison of Egypt and the constraints of slavery, but they weren't quite fully born. So, it's equating, the Jewish people with not being quite fully born because, an egg has the potential for life inside it. There's a baby chick in there. So, but when it said they weren't quite fully born, I immediately flashed back to what Colleen was talking about. And I'm like, that's it. That's what the Lord is saying with these full moons, I believe. In the dreams, when the moons are full, the rapture does take place. In this dream that I had, they were half moons. They weren't full yet. That's why the rapture didn't happen, because the fullness of the Jews and Gentiles is not yet. And like I said, I need to brush up on exactly what that means. And with in the Strongs, 456 means to rebuild. So that kind of like points to the rebuilding of the temple. So I feel like we're almost there. It's still going over my head quite a bit. But Colleen, if you're listening to this, keep going with what the Holy Spirit is leading you to, because I feel you're really on to something there. But again, hopefully I made a little bit of sense with all of this. It's so much information, you guys. My brain just hurts. And, when I sat down to do this video, in my head, I knew exactly how I wanted to share it with you. And I feel like I've left some things out, but hopefully I made some sense here. But if you guys get anything further on this, please feel free to let me know. And go check out Colleen's videos from today. Again, her channel is Loved by the King. But I feel like we're starting to get somewhere, you guys. So, all right, bye-bye.